sure you're ready for this?
I'll do my best.
Your best? Losers always whine about their best. Winners go home and the prom queen.
Welcome to the best soccer show. The best soccer show in the whole world.
Here we go. Best soccer show, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV. Jason Davis, birthday boy, Jared DuBois. We are here with you. Happy birthday, man. Happy birthday.
Thank you, sir. I literally am embodying the clerk's line. I'm 37.
37?
In a row?
In a row? You what are you doing to celebrate your 37th birthday?
I worked an 11-hour day, then hung out with your pasty white ass.
Man, that's cold. That's terrible.
Right. I'm just as pasty as you in this light. It's the lights, really. We're both extremely bronzed.
No, I'm normally not this white. That's absolutely true. No, but seriously, are you going to at least do it up on the weekend a little bit?
The only thing every year I have my poker tournament. Me and my buddy do that celebrate kind of both our birthdays. I'll be taking first place in that tournament, and then the next day, my wife and I aren't on Valentine's Day people.
Yes.
Like we purposely don't do anything on Valentine's Day, but we go out sometime around there.
Okay. Because Valentine's Day, just like for couples, is just like New Year's Eve and St. Patrick's Day for drinkers. It's completely amateur night. You don't want to step out into that world.
Oh yeah, I'm not trying to go out and I'm definitely. It's hard to get a reservation to a place you want to go.
Exactly.
So we're going to go out Sunday night. I got Monday off. So actually Monday, if things go right. Now, Trevor, you can confirm for me or not. I may be making an appearance on Soccer Morning.
I don't know. We will
possibly
celebrate your birthday again then. The places you want to go or you can't get a reservation. And then the places that are like, decent but not overpriced that you would normally go to sell like the $300 packages with the roses and the chocolates and the bottle.
Yeah, it ends up being a like what's it called when you have a prefix menu where it's like you have to get the one item or the one like three items and it's all way overpriced.
Yeah, exactly.
You're right. It's amateur night. I know how to eat. I don't need you to make the menu for me.
Now let's drop one of these in.
I know how to pair an aperitif with an entree.
You don't need I'm sure you have utilized the services of a sommelier before, correct?
Yes.
Or no? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't always need one. Most of the time, I'm pretty decent. But when you get to some places that have like a 10-page wine list, sometimes you want to ask. Sometimes you want to phone a friend.
You want to phone a friend. All right, Best Soccer Show on the air Wednesday night, live edition. Phone lines open 201-430-2378. I would highly suggest you call in and wish my boy Jared a happy birthday. 37 years old. By the way, this is something, and we talked about this before the show. I may have known this and completely forgotten it because really, how does it have any bearing on my life? But Jared DuBois, born on the same exact day in 1977 as Mr. Jimmy Conrad, which I find
the stars aligned that day.
They must have. So Southern California just dropped two golden children.
And what did the rest of your states do that day? Nothing.
I wasn't alive yet. I'm a couple years down the line.
California was doing so much work that day.
I was born in California, so I do have that in common. Not the California
I did not know that. Were you really?
Not the California you recognize, but the California. It's
you live like in Modesto or something.
I was born in Sacramento.
No, at least it's the capital. I mean, it's
right. At least Arnold spent some time there. 404, you're on the air.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Daniel from Atlanta.
What's up, Daniel?
Hey, happy birthday, Jay Rodius.
Thank you, Hotlanta. I appreciate it.
It's cold there. It's cold there right now. Snowing in Atlanta. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, I don't know if these women are going to play tomorrow, but I was really anticipating the USA versus Russia game.
Yeah,
Russia's ready to go.
That game was canceled, by the way, USA Russia for Atlanta because of the snowstorm, because of the issues Atlanta's had. And
I'm hearing, is there National Guard on the ground in Atlanta today?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they yesterday, yes, but. Yeah.
So what else is on here? Is that what's on your mind, Daniel? The cancellation of the women's game?
I mean, I was anticipating, seeing some goals from Sydney LaRue or
this kind of brings up an interesting question, Daniel. As a guy that lives in Atlanta, As a city that has a very decent chance of getting an MLS team sometime soon, if you believe the rumors are out there. Can Atlanta play through the winter?
Honestly, with the stuff that we've been going through, like the past couple of weeks, that I don't think so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because look, I mean, it's not necessarily the strength of the storms, all that, all the time. It's not necessarily that Atlanta gets a foot of snow. That's not happening. But what happens is Atlanta, and we saw it with the last storm, kind of gets crippled by a little bit of ice, which is you're more likely to get in a southern locale like Atlanta. You're more likely to get ice than snow, and you just shut everything down, and there's just not enough public transportation to deal with it all. If MLS came to Atlanta, I'm assuming that you'd support it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you support it if it's owned by the same team, same owner as the Falcons, though, or do you want to see some kind of different ownership group there?
Well, because the thing I see, I don't have a car right now, so it wouldn't pay me. It wouldn't pay me to to take 2 buses and a train or something like that to go see Atlanta. The Atlanta FC or whatever the hell you want to call them. But if they're being run under the same Arthur Blake, I don't know,
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, look, it kind of seems like MLS 1.0. Appreciate the call, Daniel. It seems
my man is an embodiment of the new Nielsen ratings information that came out for MLS. Young and fiscally challenged.
Yes, young.
That's what we learned from Nielsen ratings.
And when I was in my early 20s, I was, I had a roommate, no car, public transportation everywhere, and I lived in a better spot for it than Atlanta, I think.
Through that, I had 9 roommates.
Well, I mean, when you were in college? I'm not talking about college.
Yeah. It wasn't like a frat house. I was 3 bedrooms, 9 dudes.
That's just messed up.
That's how you made bills work.
No, that is how you made bills work. All right, so we just got a little bit of Atlanta flavor there. Your question was interesting. You're imagining like a future where we switch the calendar. Is that what you were asking about?
Well, I think it was my theory that by adding 3 southeastern teams, combined with the 2 teams in Southern California, even San Jose, even going up into maybe you can get away with it sometimes in the Cascadia if it's raining instead of snowing. You could play. The northeastern teams can play and Midwestern teams can play a lot of coastline games during that time. And take long road trips and try to make it through the winter. But Atlanta is one of the teams I thought, maybe they don't have to worry too much about that. But seeing what we're seeing right now.
Typically they don't, but occasionally these things happen. It's been a very strange winter up and down the East Coast. We've seen this before. Dallas gets hit by ice and gets completely shut down. So you would have the same problems in places like Dallas and potentially Columbus deals with snow. But I don't know. I don't think that's what the Southeastern deal is about. I think
what does Columbus deal with?
Snow? Oh. Did you want me to debut this? I'm not sure that producer Trevor is going to be on board with our snow. That's hardcore 90s. Like you have to go
if you didn't have to look up that joke, you're more than welcome to listen to the show on the regular.
Yeah. I don't think the Southeastern thing is about changing the calendar. I think it's about television. I think it's about getting into that area and giving the league that footprint, which is the buzzword that everybody uses. And to that point, we talked about Miami and David Beckham and coming in. The rumor that erupted today and has already been shot down, and I'm a little bummed by this. Although I think this is a terrible name, I'm bummed by the notion that it's already been shot down. Here's the deal. Some Miami Hurricanes blogger type guy who writes at the Palm Beach Post website, somehow he's the one that decided he was going to leak the potential names for the Miami team. Now, he does kind of say, well, these names were used in a presentation, but they're probably not real names. But people ran with it because there was a mock-up of a jersey and a logo, and it was Miami Vice. Seriously.
Listen, I'm not going to lie. I enjoy it from a very sucrosy, sweet, kind of just sink your teeth into it kind of way to talk about. But I like the kind of kit look. I'm not going to lie. I kind of like the look of the kit.
And I actually don't, except for the ball streaming through
the streaming ball. Other than that, I kind of like the MV thing too.
Yeah, MV, I like that. But you can't go with Vice. You can't.
You can, but you can't.
No, you can't. I mean, first of all,
in all fairness, I mean, listen, if there had already been a ambulance show called Chicago Fire, they still would have called it Chicago Fire, right?
Yeah, I think that there's a difference. I mean, that thing...
There's a cheesy aspect.
The Chicago Fire happened, 150 years ago at this point, and... I don't know. It's just that period in Miami history is so. I mean,
I'm not opposed to renaming the Galaxy LA Law.
Yes, you are. Don't.
I am very opposed to that.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
You know, it would be awesome if you did name it Miami Vice, and your jersey actually looked like it was opened up with another color underneath it. Like the arms and sleeves are one color and then down the. It's almost like the Philly Union has. Like Philly Union looks like it has a khaki shirt underneath a blue blazer.
Totally, like maybe use like a 3/4 sleeves and have them roll it a little bit.
Yes.
Oh man, you absolutely could do this. Look,
why am I not in charge of something?
I don't know.
Why am I not in charge of something?
You should absolutely be in charge of something. It's stunning that you're not. I think Miami Vice is off the table, and it was shot down by some publicist or PR person who represents.
What do you think about the name Current though? I don't get that.
Yeah, I didn't get that either.
That's very. It actually sounds very WNBA.
It sounds Miami Current to me sounds like a newspaper. Like I don't know. It sounds like a newspaper to me. Or Current, like a television station, like Current TV. Is there a Current?
And then the other option is a sponsor linked name. So is it going to be like Deportivo Entertainment 19?
Yeah, I don't know what that one was. Obviously, he didn't have it. In terms of I mean, what other names? Look, I mean, they're going to go with something legitimate or seemingly legitimate. It's probably going to be either a nod to Europe or South America, which is fine. I mean, I may have some issues with it down the road, but you could do stuff like the Miami Soccer Machine. I mean, there's so many possibilities here.
I kind of like something like Port City or something like that. But he has to have the word Miami in it somehow because they're doing. What's the name of the area they want to put the park?
It's Port Miami.
Port Miami. I kind of like Port Miami.
Port Miami FC. Just call it Port Miami.
Yeah, I kind of dig that.
Right. Now the problem with that is that it's not like a neighborhood. It doesn't have a flavor to it. It's just a place. Like it's an industrial situation.
I guess where places like Chelsea where they always like
that's a neighborhood. That's a neighborhood.
But isn't a place is a neighborhood? I don't know. Like
no, but there's no living. There's no like 50-year-old history in Port Miami that they can like
yet
into. I don't know. That's like naming. I don't know. It's like naming a team after. I can't even think like a. I don't even look at.
Well, just you think about the original teams like in English, like all had to do with where the geographically were located or something or socially in the area. And I think it's listen, there's no rich history or anything like that. It kind of sounds all right, and it's kind of legit in terms of where the team could possibly be located. It
doesn't sound bad. In fact, I think there are 2 teams in the English pyramid from like the top 5 divisions that are not named after places, and I think Arsenal.
Tottenham Hotspur.
No, Tottenham is a neighborhood.
Hotspur. Sorry.
I think it's Arsenal, and I think Port Vale. So that actually kind of feeds into Port Miami. So there you go. I don't know.
Creator of one, Chris Burchill.
Yes, creator. They created him.
He came here from there. I don't know.
He's also a TNT international, which is always fascinating to me.
Yeah, that's interesting as well. But listen, they could do worse than Port Miami. Listen, they could do way worse than Port Miami, and they could do way better than Port Miami. But I'm really interested to see what they're going to do with this thing. And Beckham even said it in an interview. He said, "Listen, I know everyone wants me just to come out with a name and colors and have it out there, but I kind of like the fact he's taking his time with it. Let's get it right." And the amount of creatives around the Beckham brand and Entertainment 19, they have so much at their disposal in terms of getting this right. If they don't, it'll be shocking.
I hope so. I mean, but you never know. I mean, you just never know. We thought that, and again, I'm trying not to be mean about this. I'm just underwhelmed by what the Earthquakes did, and they had the opportunity to have.
You're gonna that's like that, you're gonna compare the sexiness of Miami and Beckham.
No. I'm talking
San Jose.
I'm talking about that they had the same not the same resources, but they had resources to make that rebrand pop, and it doesn't pop to me. Now, I don't know what that means. I'm not saying it has to be like some completely unique design.
In all fairness, has any MLS rebrand popped? Even Sporting Kansas City, we didn't like when it came out.
Yeah,
FC Dallas, that didn't pop. San Jose Earthquakes rebrand didn't pop.
Yeah. No, you got a point. It's difficult. It's a difficult thing to do to try to create a brand out of nothing. 413.
I think Portland's the closest thing that ever happened.
Yeah, 413.
Hey, what's up, guys?
And Portland even had controversy over the original crest when they moved to MLS because that shadows and was all weird and and it had like wings on it. and the fans didn't like the wings, and they had to protest. Go ahead, man. Sorry.
Hey, how you guys going?
We're good. What's up?
Good. All right. Well, first of all, happy birthday, Jared. I know.
Yeah.
And man, I don't know. I got 2 quick questions for you. And but before I go any further, these supporter group names for Miami Vice are going to be insane, no matter what. They got to be.
Well, they've got a group down there now that's been working towards an MLS team for a while called the Southern Legion, which is a fine name, nothing special. But if you had a Miami Vice, if the Miami Vice was the actual name, what would the supporters group need to be? Like,
man, it has to be something like with a Ferrari or a Lambo or something. Oh man, or some kind of like the powder whites is how the nickname needs to be, or like the team color needs to be white, and you call the team like the powder whites.
Okay, all right. Well,
someone needs to be paying me to think of these things.
Yeah, I was thinking something like, well, you can't really mix the Davy Crockett and the Miami Vice Crockett together to do like a Crockett's Army kind of thing. Which I'm not a fan of the Army deal anymore anyway, but that would be pretty bad, right?
Yeah, it would be pretty bad. I'm not sure what you call them down there.
Just be the Vice Squad. I mean, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, you can do something along those lines. I still like nicknaming the team the Powder Whites. I think that's too good.
The Powder Whites. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say it's gonna be glitzy as hell, and then after 10 years, you're gonna want it to go away. But it's anyways. I have 2 quick questions.
It's not happening.
Did you ever hear about a possible United States-Iran friendly at one point? I remember it was announced, but I never heard any scheduling.
I never followed up on that. I do remember it being kind of bandied about as an idea.
Was it part of the possible send-off series matchup or something like that?
Yeah, I think it was in that mix. I'm not sure where it stands at the moment. I mean, it would obviously be interesting. There's the history there. There's obviously the political stuff, which I don't really need a game with all that political nonsense in it.
Things are thawing a little bit between the 2 countries, though. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to do.
It's much better, clearly. It's just unless it's us versus the Russians. And
let me say it this way: would you like your team to travel to Iran to have the game there? Would you want your team traveling to Iran?
I don't think that'd be a problem. There'd be plenty of security. They'd make sure everything was fine. I don't think that.
Yeah, no. Yeah, of course. But no, I didn't want to derail you guys too much. I was gonna ask though, with Atlanta, you just mentioned, to Miami, what's the Western Conference going to look like?
Let's see. How many?
You probably pull in at least 2 Texas teams. To be honest with you, Houston, is going to swing. So Houston's a swing city, so they'll go back and forth with the first team that goes, and then, you're going to see maybe all of Texas. I mean, is that possible?
What do you mean all of Texas? You have 2 teams in Texas, and one of them's already in the Western Conference. So what are you going to do?
Oh, I apologize. I'm thinking. I don't know why I'm thinking San Antonio is eventually going to be in there too, but they're not going to be in there too. So I guess both of them would have to go.
Well, I mean that adds what's the breakdown right now? I don't have it in front of me. How many?
I think it's one more Eastern than Western right now at 19. Is that what it is?
Yeah. One more. Yeah. So there's 10 Eastern and 9 Western. So you're going to have to pull Houston over to the West to make 10. If you're adding
this season.
That's not that. Yeah. Well, okay, that doesn't even work because you end up with.
Wait.
Yeah. Hold on.
On the map, Columbus or
no. Let me say this: Houston's going to get moved. That's going to happen. Houston's going to go to the West. That means you're going to end up with 11 in the East and 10 in the West, while you have 21 teams, because that's what we're going to get when Orlando and New York City FC are in, right? Or is that 19?
Yes.
Yeah, that's 20 and 21, right?
Yeah.
So then you add Miami and Atlanta, 22 and 23. That's 2 more. That would put them up to 13. I guess you would have to pull. Sporting.
Chicago,
maybe. I mean, that's tough, and I don't know. Maybe we're staring at something where MLS decides to break it up in a different way next.
Well, we always said at 21, that's probably a magic number for Don Garber to go NFL style and go 3 conferences. I mean, it's definitely a possibility.
7 is a weird number in turn. I don't know. I don't know. I guess they could do that. I get bored by all of this. I know it matters, and I know it's important for playoff positioning and all. I just get bored talking about it because I don't think.
What I'm going to be really bored by is if it goes to 3 conferences, all the NFL, everything. Soccer fans hate anything that has to do with the NFL. It's just the way it is. So whether it makes sense to go to 3 conferences or not, just because the NFL does it, soccer fans won't like it.
Yeah, there's something to that. All right, man. Thanks for the call.
Yo, good show, guys.
Right. If you want to wish Jared DuBois a happy birthday or ask any question whatsoever, 430-2378 is the phone number. Miami Vice is not going to happen. Just deal with that. It's on the one hand, for people like us who are old enough to remember and have and know, and certainly Archer fans right now, it would be amazing. It's just not going to happen. They're not that stupid. Just like they're not stupid enough to put Beckham United on it, Jared. They're not that stupid.
Okay. I hope not. I really hope not.
All right. Let's move on. We meant to talk about this on Sunday and really didn't get a chance to. There was a little bit of a, I like the word kerfuffle. Is that a good word for this?
Yeah, it's decent. It's handbags.
All right. Handbags. Tim Leiweke and Nick Sakavich. Nick Sakavich of the Philadelphia Union did an interview with the Philly Soccer Page where essentially he took shots at Toronto and their spending and said, if we spent like that, we'd be mortgaging our future for 20 years. And
Wow.
I think that our signing of Maurice Adu, which is going to end up costing us $1.5 million, is better value than Michael Bradley at $6 million or whatever Toronto's paying. Tim Leiweke shot back and basically said, I'd take Michael Bradley every day of the week, and I think this is going to motivate him, blah, blah, blah. And I said at the time, we need more of this. Let's get some more of this going. And I get a little bit with Greg Berhalter and Merritt Paulson, not on the same level, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. Well, I guess it's somewhat at the executive level. We got an owner calling out a coach, but just to get back to the Nick versus Tim issue here. I really don't see Nick's side to this. Let me rephrase that. I understand what he's saying by they don't have the money to spend. Okay, then Philadelphia and the ownership that is there shouldn't have a team. Yeah, you can't punish Toronto for having money.
Well, again, though,
and being willing to spend it.
And Nick Sakavich is an old school MLSer in a lot. I mean,
I'm sorry. Let me say it differently, Jason. Let me say it differently. Did Toronto break any rule?
No, but I think that Sakavich's point is that maybe not his point, but I think that where this is coming from is he does come from a different MLS, and it's changed very quickly. Tim Leiweke has pushed the envelope, and now we're looking at a league where the haves are spending on the level of TFC, and the have-nots are Philadelphia, who get Maurice Adu at $600,000, and it's that's about the most they're going to spend on anybody, and I think it bothers him. I mean, these are guys. Do
you think it would bother him the same amount if Toronto broke the bank and got Cristiano Ronaldo, and New York broke the bank and got Lionel Messi, and it guaranteed that Philadelphia Union get 4 games a year with those guys coming to their stadium and the amount of money they could bring in?
I think he would still complain. Yeah, I think he would still complain. I mean, I think the business part of him would understand what that means for their ticket sales on those game days, but I think he would still complain because I think for him it's a competitive issue. He imagines this as a league that is with.
You're telling me that Maurice Adu's not as good as these guys?
I think Maurice Adu can be very good in MLS. I don't think he's going to be Michael Bradley good, but then again, that's why there's a pay difference. That's why there's a massive amount of money.
Maurice Adu is going to be a slightly better version of Ricardo Clark.
Slightly better than Rico Clark was really good last year in spurts and stretches and long stretches. He was really good last year.
All right. I mean, and depending on a lot of Maurice Adu's success is going to depend on how healthy he is. It's kind of a big risk for Philadelphia to put that money out there for him.
No, I think there's something to that. I mean, I think he's still an effective player. He's not been able to get off the bench wherever he's been. So I mean, we actually invoked Rico Clark's name when we talked about what Maurice Adu would be worth if those reports at the time were that he was asking for $1.5 million or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That clearly isn't going to be what he's going to make in MLS.
To go back to your original point on how you kind of set this up, the Merritt Paulson, Greg Berhalter part, I am totally 100% in Merritt Paulson's corner on this one. Yeah. And if people don't know, here's how it went down. I guess the Merritt Paulson shopped a player to Columbus Crew and.
No, stop.
I apologize. Toronto FC. I apologize.
Yes. Toronto FC is shopping Laba, who they have to get rid of.
To everybody.
Yeah, because he's their 4th DP. He can only have 3. All right, continue.
Okay, and Kirk Berhalter comments in the press saying that they turned it down, and this is why, despite the fact there was no concrete report that ever happened. So basically, Kirk Berhalter takes a backdoor conversation into the public, and Merritt Paulson calls him out on it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You just said a backdoor conversation. I don't even know what.
How about a behind closed door conversation? Is that better?
A back room conversation, perhaps.
Room conversation. That's all right too.
Look, it does not benefit Greg Berhalter to blow up everyone's spot in this situation. If he is going to air this out in public, it will only keep teams from coming to him with offers in the future. That it just can't be a thing he does. And Paulson's got a good point. And you wonder, look, Greg Berhalter, he doesn't have experience running an MLS team. He comes his one experience as a manager, as a head coach, comes in from Europe, where really this wouldn't be an issue. I don't think this would be the same kind of thing.
Listen, he doesn't have the coaching experience, but I'm sorry, this is real life. Things like this happen all over. You know what? This is the equivalent to if you're playing poker with a guy and he turns over your cards despite the fact he didn't pay money to see him. That is a breach of etiquette. You don't do it. You just don't. You got to pay to play. You got to pay to see the guy's cards. Berhalter didn't pay to talk about this. I mean, once you pay for a player and you've done a deal, talk about it. If you're not, why is anyone ever going to want to do business with you again? And here's the quote. Here's the actual tweet from Eric Paulson. It says, if coach thumps his chest to media about specific trades he has rejected, he ain't getting more trade offers. Amazing that happens. Hashtag new guy. And that's kind of the dagger. The new guy part.
Nobody wants to. And look, I mean, this you can call this petty, you can call this high school if you want, but nobody wants to be made to look bad. So Greg Berhalter basically just dragged TFC through the mud by reporting to everyone, by telling everybody this is what they offered and he's not good enough and he makes too much money. And again, why would you come back to Greg Berhalter? Why would you go to Greg Berhalter with an offer if you are afraid or if you're worried? I mean, not afraid, but if you're worried.
Because what he's doing is he's essentially killing the value of Matthias Laba in public.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. He has taken a shot at Laba's value in the open market and kind of poison things for TFC. Now, maybe that's his game. Maybe that's
listen, Greg Berhalter is totally you're allowed to run your team however you want, Mr. Berhalter, but I just think there's a certain way the game is played, and he's taking a pretty bold stance in year one of the Berhalter project in Columbus, and I'm afraid he might do some damage with it, to be honest with you.
We'll see how this plays out. I do just like the back and forth. Give me.
I just love this on Twitter, and he never names Berhalter's name, Eric Paulson, but everyone knows who he's talking about.
Yeah, of course, and well, that's what he does. I actually would rather he say it directly. I mean, really, like no one's gonna know. I mean,
but Eric Paulson's the type. I think he would if he had the characters to support it in the 140 characters of the tweet. Berhalter has a lot of letters.
Yes, I guess it
Coach has a lot less.
And he's got that extra G on it. Like if you used his first name, you got to throw in that extra G. What is up with the extra G?
That's really selfish, that G.
Do you think it's a pretentious G? Do you think it's like...
Well, obviously his parents did it to him, but maybe he's just twice the G of any other guy.
Well, no, I'm definitely putting it...
Or three times the G of any other guy.
I'm putting it at the feet of his parents. What were his parents thinking? What were his parents thinking? We're going to add we're going to toss it in. Maybe it's Gregory, and
it's a vanity G.
That's right. It's a vanity. It's probably, and I'm not. This probably isn't his situation, but I can imagine like we're going to give him the name Greg, and it's going to have two G's on it because my father's name was Greg, and
It's the male version of Stacy with an I. Come on, get with the program. It's a Y.
Nobody actually spells their name. Nobody puts their name on a birth certificate. Stacy with an I. No, at least not when we were growing up. Maybe now, because names now are pretty bad.
Yeah, they're
pretty insane.
Pretty
yeah, that's pretty insane. Speaking of Toronto FC, man, they are just scooping up major international talent. Apparently, Julio Cesar is on his way to TFC on loan to get some playing time ahead of the World Cup so he can start for the favorites, Brazil. How insane is that?
I haven't got to see what Scolari's reaction was to this. What was the Scolari reaction to this?
The press basically put it to him, look, MLS is not the best league. Quality's not that good, blah, blah, blah.
Nice phrase of a question.
Well, it's essentially what it was. And Scolari said, it's a growing league, it's improving, and we just want him to play. He just needs to play. He had a very matter-of-fact response to this. He just needs to play. And if he can go and get time in MLS, good for him. He's going to face shots. He's gonna have to catch crosses.
And honestly, in all honesty, if there's one thing that North America might be able to actually help a guy with, it's keeping. I mean, we do pretty well with goalkeepers over here, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. But again, to think that, and I know it's a unique circumstance, but this still doesn't happen 8 years ago. World Cup favorite Brazil's goalkeepers going to play in MLS before the World Cup.
Leaving EPL for MLS.
Leaving
QPR, excuse me. QPR's not by championship.
And that's the thing. That's the funny thing about all of it. He's riding the bench at QPR in the championship. And or not getting enough time. I don't know. I'm not really up on my QPR. I know they're doing fine in the championship, but it's, it kind of speaks to Brazil's keeper situation.
Speaking though of all the talent that's going to Toronto, couldn't every other MLS team, if they're really haters on Toronto, just not take the Laba deal and kind of mess up this whole thing? Because technically, they're holding 4 DPs right now.
MLS is going to make it worth their while. Some club. MLS.
So GFC is the new Los Angeles Galaxy. They'll make it work.
In this situation, absolutely, they'll make it work. And you can rage against that if you want to, because it is sort of an end run around the rules. If Toronto was going to sign Bradley and Defoe and who's their third DP? Why am
Rosario.
No, he's not. He's not a DP. Who's their third DP? Why am I blanking? They have they're Gilberto.
Oh, yeah, the Brazilian. Okay. Sorry.
So if they were going to sign these 3 players, then they should have planned ahead of time and gotten rid of Laba before they needed to make this move. Now, because now basically they have no leverage. I mean, but
you're going to have to give up more than he's worth, most likely.
Yeah, regardless of what Berhalter said, they have no leverage. So I think because it's Defoe and Bradley are the guys that are going to be in that team, and Toronto has made such a splash, MLS HQ will give something to whoever takes him on. It'll be a loan. They'll take him on loan for a year or for the season, and sort of wipe their hands.
Basically, when you have to take your cousin to homecoming because your parents say she doesn't have a date.
Well, I mean, I don't know that he's gonna. I don't know where he's gonna end up. I don't know how much he's gonna play. He was,
but where he does end up, though, I see it. I don't know, for some reason I see that as a weak team. I mean, but maybe the team doesn't have an option. I mean, it seems like he's going to be forced on someone. Do you think Merritt Paulson's going to let anyone be forced on him? No. Do you think Bruce Arena's going to let anyone be forced on him? I mean, listen, there's certain guys that have a stature and a candor in this league that I just don't think it would happen. Or if it did, I think it may actually come out in the press if certain people got this forced on them.
Yeah, no, I think that you're right. I think there's probably going to be a team who can sort of say, well, we needed a player like him in some position. He's not going to go to a strong team or a team that's a favorite in any sense. I don't know where he goes. I mean, they got figured out.
Speaking of guys that went to a team, what really flew under the radar in the last week? Marco Pappa to Sounders. That is a pretty big move that I think didn't get much attention.
I think it got some attention. He was the guy that came in through the allocation order behind Maurice Adu, right?
Yeah.
So it was sort of always, there was a question of whether or not he would go and somehow end up back in Chicago. Who actually wanted him. I think there were a couple of other teams mentioned as possible destinations. He ends up in Seattle. And what do you think he brings to the table for the Sounders? I mean,
a left-sided playmaker to replace Steve Zakawani, who was a risk to begin with, to be honest with you. So I think it's a really shrewd, great pickup for Seattle Sounders. I mean, if you think about it, they lose a guy like Charles Joseph, they lose that cap, they lose him, and they bring in Marco Pappa. Unlike Steve Zakawani, who may be kind of guy who wants to get to the corner and cross in, Marco Pappa has the type of guy who wants to come inside, and he'll be able to combine with Clint Dempsey. And I'll be really interested to see how that works versus an out-and-out winger.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this is a different situation, and I think he'll be fine. I don't know how good he'll be. We'll have to see how he works back into MLS. But, remember that this is a guy who was very, very good for the Fire. Went to Holland. It didn't really work out there. I mean, I'm looking at his wiki page. In 3 seasons, or in 2.5 seasons, whatever this was, he made 12 appearances. I mean, he was one of those guys who was pushing and pushing and pushing. I got to get to Europe. Got to get out. He was the Guatemalan Juan Agudelo. And he finally did, and it didn't work out. And now he comes back to MLS. Is his attitude right? Is he the same player as when he left? I mean, he's only 26. I'm not saying he's not.
Well, I'll say one thing that's working in his favor is that he's coming to a team where he doesn't have to be the guy like he was in Chicago. When he was in Chicago, he was the guy. Now, I know they had Freddie Lundqvist and stuff like that. There are other guys that should have been the guy. DPs, they had a revolving door of DPs at Chicago that should have been the guy, and none of them were. But when it all was said and done, it was Marco Pappa. He was the guy there for a few years. He's coming to a Sounders team where he's going to be, third, fourth most important person on that team?
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have a number of guys, and maybe he'll flourish in that role. I would say this, though. He'll see a lot less attention on him than he saw when he was playing for Chicago.
Do you think he is a? I mean, he's not the same player, and he's going to bring different things. But they let Mauro Rosales go. He goes to Chivas. They trade him to Chivas. Is he sort of a step-in replacement for Mauro Rosales in terms of what they were able to do with Rosales a couple years ago?
I think he plays similar to Rosales. I think Rosales, like Marco Papa, he wants to cut inside. And I think for Seattle's game, if they can make Marco Papa play on the right, that would be a really huge benefit for them, like they did with Rosales, because that opens up the DeAndre Yedlin channel that he can run that sideline. I think having a guy like Marco Papa that can cut inside really opens up the fullback position. Now, I don't know if he can make a decent transition to the right side. In my mind, he's always playing on the left. That's how I remember him, but I don't know if that's just how Chicago chose to use him or if he has the ability to play both sides. But if he can, that's a really good replacement for Mar Rosales.
I don't know what's going on in preseason right now with the Sounders. I mean, they could be trying to do something.
I'll tell you right now, my number one, I haven't seen what his cost is, but if his cost is right, one of my number one sleepers for fantasy this year would be Kenny Cooper. I think Kenny Cooper could be a huge sleeper in this league this year in terms of, once again, how far down the chart before you pay attention to Kenny Cooper when you have those other guys on the field. And it's not like Kenny Cooper's ever been a slouch. He's just never been the star.
He scored, 19 goals or something in New York?
I know, and he still wasn't a star.
No, he wasn't. He was behind Henry, yeah.
I really think that's a guy that could definitely benefit this season.
He's a sleeper. He's not going to get back to that number. It wasn't 19. It was maybe a 16. I don't know. He's not going to get back to that number. He's going to be, I guess, I don't know where they're going to play Dempsey yet. Is he going to play at the point of a diamond? Is he going to play as a striker? You still have Obafemi Martins. Who knows where that's going? I assume that he's going to be there at least to start the season.
Lamar Nagel as well.
Lamar Nagel. And yes, you're going to lose Dempsey and Martins if he's still around to the World Cup, which actually says something about maybe Cooper getting some goals while they're gone. 18 goals with the Red Bull. So that's close. I mean, 19, it seemed like a lot. 19 goals, damn.
I'm telling you, the leader in this league is often 18 and 19 goals. Right. And no one talks about Kenny Cooper. Nobody talks about Kenny Cooper. Now, granted, I get it. He ain't sexy. He's not going to be the guy. But when you have those pieces around him, Kenny Cooper, one thing he can do is he can play the role you want him to play. He doesn't need the spotlight. He will play the role you want to play. He wants a paycheck and some goals. And I think he can get both in Seattle.
Okay, I think that's a good show. I mean, look, Eddie Johnson not that Cooper needs to resuscitate his career at this point. He already kind of did that with the return to MLS, but Eddie Johnson resuscitated his career, scored a bunch of goals with the Sounders. Why can't Kenny Cooper benefit from the same kind of thing?
Yeah, and I think when you look at Obafemi Martins, Eddie Johnson, you might have a little too much of the same, to be honest with you. When Kenny Cooper can play back to goal a lot better than Eddie Johnson can do it, but it's not what he wants to be doing. So I like that move. Speaking
of player movement, Benji Hoya, the highly touted kid, Mexican-American kid, Santos Laguna, who I've seen him play in the U.S. youth team a couple of times. Very good player.
He got some time for Santos in the Champions League as well against some MLS sides.
He has moved. He is now with the Chicago Fire. I think that's a loan situation. This is clearly Benji Hoya needs to play. There's not going to be a place for him in Mexico right now, so let's loan him to the Fire, get him back into the into MLS, or not back in MLS, but get him into an MLS situation. He's an American kid, has a chance to grow here. How big of a deal is this? And they actually see. I mean, he's 20 years old. You shouldn't count on him doing a ton, but I think a lot of eyes are going to be on him.
Yeah, one thing, just me being selfish, I'm just stoked because I'm gonna get to watch the kid now. Like I don't watch much Liga MX, and even when I did, he's not like he was getting minutes down there. You get the feeling if he's going to Chicago, it's gonna be because he's gonna get some minutes. So I personally am excited to see a young up and coming American that has been kind of off my radar, but you've heard good things about. I'm excited to see him play. What's interesting, though, is to see the opposite of the Villarreal and Farfan move, where it's Liga MX loaning to MLS, when we've been seeing more of the other with young Americans.
I don't think that there's any like hard and fast rule. I mean, it's situational stuff, right? I mean, we're talking about these kids and their individual needs, their individual desires, their individual interest in them. Whatever Cruz Azul saw in Villarreal, we'll see if it actually comes to anything.
I'm going to say I think it's a kind of a missed opportunity for San Jose Earthquakes, too. This is a San Jose hometown kid, and there's an MLS market in the backyard where this guy grew up. I think San Jose should have tried to own this one.
He went through allocation. I think they were in the mix, or no, they had just taken somebody or something.
Is there allocation for loanees?
He's a U.S. Youth International.
That is a weird little quirk in the number of quirks for MLS. You would think loanees could go wherever they wanted, and it wouldn't have to be.
You're surprised by this? I mean,
duh and or hello.
It's MLS, dude. If something doesn't make sense, just assume that there's a rule because that's the case. There's always a rule.
So on the flip side of what always happens, Americans always get loaned to an EPL team for 3 months in the winter. Let's say there's a EPL club that wants to. Take for example, Stuart Holden last summer. He was on the up. If the Gold Cup wasn't around, it's potential maybe he could have got loaned to Houston Dynamo for a few months through the summer to get fit. You're saying that Stuart Holden wouldn't be allowed to be loaned to a team. He'd have to go through allocation order.
That's a different situation because the Houston Dynamo offered him a contract before he left for Bolton. And
okay, I'm sorry. I picked the wrong damn guy. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying. Look, I'm telling you, don't even try because it's just going to frustrate the crap out of you. Lee Wynn went through allocation, remember? Yeah. He went through allocation. He had never been an MLS player. But he went through allocation because he was a former.
Yeah, but the teams are trying to buy him. It seems like I don't know. I just don't agree. I think a loan deal should be able to be between two clubs, and that's it.
I see. Yeah. Well, but then again, MLS owns all the contracts, man. It's just the way it works. It's the way it works.
They don't have all the cards.
They do. They absolutely have all the cards. Diego Forlan. I got to touch on this briefly. Reports from a Spanish language radio show. Diego Forlan saying essentially, if I decide to come back to this part of the world, because he's now in Japan, he'd rather play for MLS over Liga MX. Does that matter to you at all?
Stay away. Just stay away. Here's my thing. It's not that I don't like Diego Forlan. It's not like I don't think he's a great. He does have sexy hair. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't mind the hair in the league, but at this point, I don't want to be anyone's second best option. You know, if you wanted to be here, listen, I know the money was in the J League. I get that. He played a lot of money to go there. But I guess it's very MLS 1.0 at this point. Why would you want another lower leagues cast off? It's like, would you want to bring a guy from the A League or would you want to bring a guy from the K League? Listen, if you're already there, stay there. We want to get guys, if they're going to transition late in their career, I want them directly from Europe.
Okay, but the J League is not is not by any stretch a terrible quality league.
I'm not saying it's a terrible quality league. I'm just saying is it similar quality? It's probably considered on a similar tier to MLS, correct?
I would say that's roughly true. Yes.
Okay,
Trevor thinks it's better than MLS.
I'm not talking about the standard, but I'm saying most people would probably consider it a second shelf league, kind of like MLS does.
Yeah, if you had like 3 different tiers of leagues, I think MLS and J League would be in the second tier together. Yes.
Okay, and so what I was saying is that I feel like maybe it's just me not wanting to have the image of being a guy's second. I don't want to be the second team in the second tier.
I know. Look, I think that the name probably outweighs your concerns on that. I'm with you. I'm with you. I don't want to be sloppy seconds for anybody either.
What is he at this point? Is he 34, 35, somewhere in that range?
He might be older than that.
I'm done. I'm done with that. I'm done with that 1.0 BS. You know, like either come in an age where we're signing Michael Bradley, Jermaine Defoe. I don't. Okay, he is younger than me, but in an age where we're signing Michael Bradley, Clint Dempsey, Jermaine Defoe, where we're signing even I think Robbie Keane was a great signing at the age and the time that he came over.
You know what?
I don't think the Diego Forlan one works quite as well.
I get your point. I definitely think there is more of a cachet to getting Robbie Keane from Spurs or Jermaine Defoe from Spurs than there is. We've signed Diego Forlan from Osaka. I mean, not that Osaka's a bad.
It's kind of the same way I feel about Ronaldinho now at this point too. I know the name's good. I see highlights from him that it shows he can still do it. He's tainted goods at this point.
Because he plays for Mineiro, because he played for Flamengo. I mean, come on.
Because he didn't come here right from someplace like Barcelona or.
Okay, but see, do you think there's a different standard? Robbie Keane, European. Jermaine Defoe, European. Diego Forlan, South American. Ronaldinho, South American. You think there's a difference between those dynamics that are working?
The difference for me is the amount of money it's going to take you to get Ronaldinho is not worth the stature Ronaldinho still has. If you get him right, and when he's coming from someplace like Barca, you're going to pay back if no one's going to come to see Ronaldinho the same way they would have come to see Ronaldinho 3 years ago.
No, look, Diego Forlan is reportedly getting something like $5 million to play in Japan. That's insane money for a 34-year-old guy.
Would you rather have Michael Bradley or Diego Forlan?
For that much money, I'd rather have Michael Bradley.
Me too.
Particularly because of what he does on the field. Now, I don't think here, let me say this, and I'm not sure we ever got to this. Michael Bradley's overpaid. I mean, let's not make any bones about that. Michael Bradley's overpaid.
He's overpaid for MLS. I don't know if he's overpaid for European football.
No,
Is he?
he's overpaid, period. End of story. What it took to get him here was overpaying him. And it might be the same thing.
But we can both agree he was underpaid at what he was getting for Roma, though, right?
He was underpaid at Roma, but he was
so
not.
So you think a real figure for him is around $3 million then or so?
Something like that, yeah. Something in that neighborhood. I mean, that's a very good living, and no one would sneeze at that. But it obviously took a little bit more than that to get him to MLS. And, Ron Waxman pulling the strings, making things happen out there.
Dude, that's a nice cut of cash he put in his pocket off that deal, too.
Don't you? Exactly.
I just love that he woke up 2 days after Christmas like, I'm going to try to make a couple mil today. And just phoned up Toronto. Was like, hey, you want to get this dude? This is what's going to take. Pay me.
Pay me. Also, on Sunday, we didn't get a chance to really touch on the thinning pool of American fullbacks. They're dropping like flies all over the place. Have we reached the point of crisis yet? Do we have a crisis on our hands?
I think the fullback situation was a bit of a crisis beforehand. All this did was just kind of solidify it, because here's the problem. Luckily, actually, it's probably fortuitous that the injuries didn't come to Jeff Cameron or Brad Evans. And can you believe we're saying that? A year ago, if I told you we would be in a bad situation if Brad Evans was getting injured at the fullback position. But I think what I'm remiss on is that by Timothy Chandler getting injured, we'll never know where Jurgen Klinsmann really stood on Timothy Chandler, because with the Ukraine friendly coming up, it's going to be a European-based team. This might have been Chandler's last shot, and by all accounts was playing very well in Germany.
Yes, he had been on a very good run of form that was getting his name back into the mix. I am torn on Timmy Chandler. I've always been torn on Timmy Chandler. Look, I want this team to be the best it can possibly be. If that means Timmy Chandler in it, I'm fine. I don't care what he did before. I don't care what issues he had.
But when you say the best it could possibly be, do you mean on the field or do you mean in general? Because I think those are two different things with Timmy Chandler.
That's a good question, because you could certainly make the argument that just because Timmy Chandler is a talented player doesn't mean he makes the U.S. national team better.
Because I am convinced that some of that Brian Strauss article that came out was based around Timothy Chandler as one of the locker room guys and the German disconnection that was there. It looked like it on the field. It feels like it in the actions that he put towards the U.S. national team, in that not being committed to it. I think that was a major point of dissension. I don't think there's any coincidence to the fact that this team also turned around the same time Timothy Chandler was not included in it.
Okay, yes, and he had the horrific experience in Honduras, and that was a major sort of that was one of those things that sort of took any public momentum behind Timmy Chandler and his inclusion in this team away, because he had done the dance before. He had messed around. He couldn't decide. He didn't want to come. He does want to come. He wants to play. He doesn't want to play. And then he plays that poorly in an important game. It was a Hex game. Then I got you.
If I asked you to put a Benjamin down on if Jeff Cameron is starting it right back against Ukraine or not starting it right back against Ukraine, which one are you putting it down on?
You said Jeff Cameron?
Jeff Cameron.
I'm putting it down on him starting there, yeah.
I am as well. I just think it's a no-brainer. It's with one game to go before the send-off series. You have to see Jeff Cameron at decent competition with the U.S. national team. I know you're seeing him week in, week out, and he's playing great in the EPL right now. But with everything going on around the right back position and left back position, to be honest with you, we're seeing that Michael Parkhurst maybe has the ability to play the left side. We saw that a little bit in the last game. I personally think he can make the transition. He just won't give you much offensively from that position. Yeah. But I think getting the Jeff Cameron in and minutes at that position is just way too important right now.
I agree with you. I mean, Michael Parkhurst is going to play again. He's going to play center back for the Crew. It's such
and Jeff Cameron could still step in at center midfield, and you wouldn't care because he's playing right back at Stoke, right? You wouldn't care.
I'm not as high on him as a center midfielder as everybody else seems to be. I know he played well against Panama and Seattle, but I wasn't going to. We had people calling this show crowning Jeff Cameron as Michael Bradley's partner in midfield, and I just thought that was insanity. I didn't get that at all. So
let me say it this way. With Cristiano Ronaldo bearing down, let's say he's on the right side for Portugal during this game. Would you rather have DeMarcus Beasley defending him and get more offensively, or would you rather have Michael Parkhurst at fullback and know you're going to have probably a better defensive player?
I think that's a difficult question to answer, because look, what DeMarcus Beasley can give you will also put pressure on Portugal, which could also limit the number of times you end up with Cristiano Ronaldo running at your fullback who you don't want defending. So I don't know that it's that simple. I mean,
so am I too Bradley? Am I too Bradley in the way I think, that I think too conservatively?
I think we all tend to do that. That's our base.
Don't get me wrong. You take both, and I think you play Beasley against Ghana. A team that's more speedy, and maybe you're gonna get more opportunities to counter against.
Wait, more speedy than Cristiano Ronaldo? Is that possible?
Yeah. I'm just thinking about how I remember seeing Ghana just bear down on our back line, sprinting away from our center backs as they scored against us in the last World Cup.
The extra time goal was a mistake made that led to. Yeah, I don't even want to go into it. It hurts too much. But look, if you're talking about if you gave Cristiano Ronaldo a ball and put him on the touchline, and he had, he was going to try to score, who am I going to put in front of him? I'm putting Michael Parkhurst in front of him instead of Marcus Beasley. I'm not confident either way, but I'm putting Michael Parkhurst in front of him. But that's a different question.
Well, you put Fabian Johnson in front of both of them, right?
Yes, of course.
Which is all the more reason why Landon Donovan will be the left midfielder for the U.S. national team in the World Cup.
Yeah, you know what? We went through this on Sunday where we sort of questioned the idea. We posed the question of whether or not Landon Donovan could be a bench player for this team right now. Mm-hmm. And based on the fact that you do have Fabian Johnson and you have Graham Zusi and you have Clint Dempsey already in the middle, kind of entrenched there, and you have some other options.
And don't forget, Klinsmann's loved him some Alejandro Bedoya as well.
Alejandro Bedoya certainly in that mix is a right-sided player. And we had a couple of people come at us on Twitter like, you're insane. Landon Donovan starting against Ghana. And they're probably right. I just, at this point, based on how the last couple of years have gone, how can you be sure of that? I don't think you can.
I don't think you can, but I definitely agree. I think that if I'm putting money on it, I'm putting money on Landon Donovan starting at left midfield for the U.S. national team, and hopefully Fabian Johnson works in well as a left back. I think that's everyone, because Fabian Johnson isn't able to come to as many games that we've been having in the U.S. as of late. I think we kind of forget that he should still be the number one option there. We've just seen Beasley a whole hell of a lot more recently.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. All right. Hendry Thomas going to FC Dallas. That seems to be a follow Pareja. Colorado couldn't come to terms with Hendry Thomas. It just wasn't going well. How much of an upgrade is that for FC Dallas?
It's decent. If you think that... Listen, I think Pareja's getting his guy. He knows what he's getting. He's going to get a ball winner in midfield. He's going to get a guy that's a bit of a marshal in the midfield. You're going to get a poorer version of Daniel Hernandez, who they had in FC Dallas, who Pareja played with in Dallas for a number of years. I'm just surprised with all the people in Colorado. This is the guy that comes over and follows Pareja. Now, I know the contract issue was a part of it.
Yeah, I think that was a major part. And look, the Rapids are still a team with no head coach. I don't know how that works.
Ludicrous.
I don't understand this at all. It's insanity. I think it borders on criminal behavior on the part of the people running the Colorado Rapids. I mean, look, even if Pablo Mastroianni is acting as your head coach, slap the name tag on him and let him go. I don't think it's the wrong decision. I don't think he's ready yet, but at least give the man.
At least you have a direction.
Yeah, I just don't know where they're going right now. It's very interesting. All right.
Question. One odd thing for me, though, is I wonder if there's a problem at the executive level with Colorado, because why would they lose both Wilmer Cabrera and Oscar Pareja? You think that they would be able to keep one of those two. How do you not know Pareja's going to be? Everyone knew that, but Dallas was going to go after him. You got to lock up Wilmer Cabrera then.
Yeah, and say what you want about the way Gary Smith played, and nobody liked Colorado's style during the Gary Smith era. They won an MLS Cup with him, and then things broke down relationship-wise with the front office, and he was gone.
That was that's a Detroit Pistons kind of win.
They got luck. They got luck. Well, Wilmer Cabrera was not Wilmer Cabrera. Oscar Pareja was going to be a good coach, eventually. So I'm not going to say they got lucky because they ended up with him. But, now you have, again, a situation where, and yes, it's unfortunate that the FC Dallas job opened up and put pressure on Pareja to go back home. But, yeah, you can't keep Cabrera, and you still don't have a head coach. Just pick somebody.
Pull the trigger. I mean, listen, I know for a fact Eric Winalda's sitting at his house right now. I mean, his phone is on. If you need a coach, he'll do it.
Hello? Colorado Rapids. Yeah. I got a couple of voicemails. You want to do them?
Do it.
All right, let's do it. Let's see. I don't even know which one. I listened to them a little bit. Let's see what which one this is.
Hi, this is Vincent from Milwaukee, and I was just having a question for you guys about what is the ceiling for the Mexican League in the U.S. Just with the popularity, and where do you see it in the next 15 to 20 years?
Interesting question. Vincent in Milwaukee. Liga MX's future in the United States, popular? I mean, I don't know what else to say.
If it's not already, I believe it already is the number 2 league in the U.S. in terms of ratings.
I believe it's number 1.
Is it beating the EPL?
Oh, yeah.
If you include Spanish, I'm sorry. If you include Spanish rating, I'm sorry. I personally am an English speaker. I think about English ratings, English language ratings most of the time.
Forgetting about the millions of Americans who speak Spanish, you bastard. That's just terrible.
I'm sorry, but I think.
I'm sorry. That's
when to answer his question more directly, like where does it stand? I think it stands in a place of extreme jealousy. Honestly, for a lot of Americans, I think Americans are jealous of Liga MX in terms of the notoriety, respect, money, and attention that it gets in our own country. Is that a bad thing? I don't know, but I think there's a lot of jealousy involved there.
Yeah, I mean, look, I could let my feelings get hurt that the league I like follows a foreign league in popularity in my country, but there's no point to being upset about that. I mean, Liga MX has a lot of fans here. They play a very good style of soccer. They have money to spend on talented players. I mean, what are you going to do?
I choose to look at it differently. I choose to look at it as there's a crap load of a fan base of soccer fans in the U.S. that MLS can try to cultivate to be, even if it's their number 2 option, it's viewers.
The thing that you know is that Liga MX cannot put a team in the United States. That cannot happen. So they are limited by the border. Now, Tijuana's right there.
USA happened then.
Well, they can continue to try to do that. I think it's actually, considering the way Chivas USA has gone, and considering the fact that MLS is going to want to compete with Liga MX over the course of the next, 10, 15 years as they try to grow the American League, it behooves MLS to avoid those relationships, those direct relationships. They can, partner with teams and let's have my players go this way and your players come this way. All that stuff's fine, but don't put Liga MX branded stuff on your league, because I just think it's bad branding. I think you're mixing.
It's funny because a year ago today, we were mentioning Chivas USA right now, and a year ago today, there's pitchforks and pyres in front of the Home Depot Center for Chivas USA to be dissolved, moved, all these different things. What's changed that no one now is talking about that when it comes to Chivas USA? Are they making positive changes, or we just give up talking about it?
Time passed. The time,
but the situation hasn't changed. They're still a fledgling team. I mean, the only thing they're not doing now is they're not being as outspoken with stupid stuff that they're saying regarding how they're going to use the team in terms of ethnicity. That's the only thing that's really changed. They've made some good acquisitions, though.
There's still a lawsuit that's winding its way through whatever process it's winding its way through. I don't know. I mean, look, I think that the pressure needs to stay on Chivas USA to figure it out. But again, it's just time. There's been no new news and no bad interviews and no HBO reports, so we're just kind of sitting here waiting for something to happen.
It just bothers me that there's like some kind of news cycle that determines whether or not something is actually valuable to talk about. It's a crappy organization, but no one talks about it anymore.
Oh, I know. It's the way the world works. Like, one more voicemail, and then we'll get out of here.
Jason and Jared, I am shocked, appalled. Okay, the 5th Beatle.
This is Hank,
Stuart
I think.
Sutcliffe. Pete Best was the first drummer, but the movie Backbeat was about Stuart Sutcliffe. And Julian Lennon is older than Sean Lennon. Okay. Julian Lennon had the big hit in the 80s, Balate. Maybe you remember this? No. I don't think so. But anyway, just thought I'd correct you on those things.
All right. That's all right.
Listen, I may have got the guy's name wrong, but I only remember is that Steven Dorff played the hell out of that role. That's one of the only things I ever liked Steven Dorff in.
It's amazing. That's our friend Hank from up in Massachusetts, correcting our Beatles problem. Okay, we don't care. Whatever. We care about Miami Vice. We don't care about the Beatles. That's where
I like to eat Beatles. But listen, I'm not trying to lose sleep over the fact I can remember if Julian Lennon or Sean Lennon was the first son of John Lennon. It's not even Beatles trivia. That's Beatles like extended trivia.
Yeah, something like that. All right, that's gonna do it. Please, iTunes ratings and reviews helps us out. Follow Jay Rodius. Wish him a happy birthday. What else? What else do I need to say?
Look up Steven Dorff on IMDb and see how many movies you can name.
Yeah, that's a little time. I
It's a
just
fun game for
watched Blade, a little bit of Blade last night. As a matter
I've never seen Blade.
Are you? Oh my God, I can't believe that. It's not the greatest movie in the world, but come on, you haven't seen Blade?
I've never seen Blade. Yeah, I haven't seen it, man.
That's amazing. We're out of here. We'll talk to you guys on Sunday. Bye.
Best. Oh, you got dead in the sweater vest.
Danger Zone!
Oh, it's incredible!
60% of the time, it works. Every time.
Eddie, what have you done for me lately?
Jay Rodius.